Hello, it is 10:21 on this Friday morning. Thanks for being here with me. Wanted to jump onto our digital platforms and talk a little bit more about some space weather stuff. We typically focus on the lowest layer of the atmospheres, but as the things go, sometimes we got to talk about other things out there. And so this is a chance to kind of explain what is happening, what the odds are, and give you a basic understanding of these northern light potential. In addition, I'll give you some tips on it, and then we'll talk about that local forecast and what time might be the best time to view, where to go, how clouds and showers could play a role in that, and more. So that is the plan. I see a couple of folks checking on in. Thanks for being here. The 10 o'clock hour of this Friday morning. Hope you got great weekend plans too. Weekend forecast looks fantastic. Lots of sunshine. We've got pretty mild weather here. It'll be a little breezy, I think, on Saturday, but overall things are looking pretty good here across the region. Okay, let's jump into it. First off, space weather forecasting. There are some experts who do a really good job of this here, but it is relatively difficult to do. You think we have it tough for forecasting things locally? Man, they've got things challenging, but they are seeing some of the signs here of space weather becoming active here. Now, the scale they use, you might have heard the G4 solar watch be a term that has been used here. And this graphic here kind of shows what is in play for that. That G4 watch is what we look at there. And you'll see here, it's a scale of 1 to 5, 1 minor, 5 extreme. When you look at the Carrington event, that's something back in the 1850s. That was well into the 5 here. We're hitting the 4. Not going to be a concern about that. But still a pretty big event for us here. Last time there was a G4 solar storm watch was 2005, and we had a good showing of the northern lights with that here in central Illinois. What can happen when you get to a level 4 here? Some impacts could be occurring to the power grid. Now, that's not necessarily locally, but around the world, there may be some spots here and there that have some problems. Last time there was a G4 solar storm, I think there were some power transformers in South America's localized issues. So this is not a huge impactful event, but certainly somewhere around the world. Particularly, it seems like more of the northern and far southern latitudes can sometimes have those issues with that. Satellites, that's where we might see impacts more locally here. You might have problems with your GPS tracking here through the evenings. There could be some failures and things of that. And the auroras, that's probably the coolest thing that can come from this. Sometimes the auroras in those G4 level events can be spotted as far as the mid-south region in the southwestern United States. And so that's something that we'll keep an eye on here. We have not had a G4 event time itself out in the nighttime hours around here in quite a long time. Typically, we're in that 1, 2. Sometimes we get to that 3 range, and we've had plenty of photos come in from when we've been in the G2, G3 levels here in central Illinois. So there's some optimism in place with this being the case. Space weather forecast typically is based on the planetary KP the planetary K index, or the KP index here. That's a number that correlates. Basically, what that means is when you look at the planetary K, the KP index, it's characterizing the magnitude of geomagnetic storms. That's coming from a coronal mass ejection, basically a solar flare from the sun heading our way. And when that KP index is becoming higher, it's on a scale of 1 to 9. When it gets up in the 4, 5, 6, 7s, 8s, 9s, essentially you're becoming more you're seeing more disturbances in the magnetic field. And so this is a scale that is used for talking about solar weather forecasting, which is pretty interesting there. And something you'll notice is to get that KB index, we get to 9, the top of the scale here. The northern lights typically are visible across southern Illinois in that. This line shows that extent with that. And so there is a correlation that does show up. So 1s, 2s, 3s, we can still see northern lights. In fact, the flights that my wife and I have taken to Europe, we flew way north towards Greenland. We could see the northern lights. Very faint. They're there. They're typically there a lot of times. But to get them more vivid and bright, you want to get 3, 4, 5s and even 6, 7s here. Between 7 and 9 is where we really watch. And we're right in that range here for central Illinois to see that. So that's kind of the exciting thing for us, is where the current forecast for the KP index, I will show you that graphic here. The Space Weather Prediction Center is showing it's peaking in the overnight hours. And that is something we got to have. You can have a KP of 8, 9. If it's at noon, you're not seeing the northern lights. It's daytime. So we want that to come at night. And you can see here, once the sun goes down and the sun rises, that KP index is forecast to be the highest. 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., that's our window of opportunity to see those northern lights. Now, the KP index is considered a 7 and 8, and there could be no northern lights. You kind of have to watch how things evolve here. It's not a thunderstorm we're tracking moving across the radar coming in our region, but we present the opportunity for them to make an appearance here. That disturbed magnetic field, the energy really high on that. And so at some point they may show up during that time period. And it's a broad window here. I know 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. So I don't want to stay up that late. Give it an hour, maybe 2, and you get a chance to see that. Sometimes they can be nothing, and a few minutes later, they can be something a bit more vivid. And so that is certainly something that we would watch for with this particular thing here. So we keep an eye on that. We've got the solar storm coming at the right time to see the northern lights. It's kind of like, you push everything in the right direction and you still don't know if it's going to steer one way or another, but the opportunity is there to see them. And so that certainly is something that we will watch here and potentially with some glee maybe later on tonight. So that's the forecast here. We think they'll be visible, northern Illinois and even into southern Illinois, perhaps further south. It's possible. The further south you get away, the more energy you need. And so to get that KP index at a 789, it's good news for us here in central Illinois. From a space side of things, we've got stuff looking in the right way for us to have a potential view of that. And so that is some good news for us here, where potentially even overhead, look maybe slightly up to the north, you might be able to spot them there. And so that's something we. However, if you've seen those photos of what it looks like in Norway and Iceland, they're just so vivid and bright. That is not what it's going to look like for us here. While we get a chance to see them, they might look a little different depending on how you're viewing them here. So to the naked eye, you might see like, hey, there's some slight color showing up in the sky there. But once you add in a little bit of exposure on your phone, they might show up a little more. You get that 30-second exposure, and they might look pretty good there for that. So that's something that we'll watch where maybe we get a chance. Have to see how that shakes out. But the naked eye is not going to show those images and pictures. The photographers, your phones are going to be the best way to view them here. But you still can see at times with the naked eye some of those light pillars that are showing up. We've had that happen before. Last time we had a really good chance for about 5 minutes. The light pillars made an appearance to the naked eye. It was really stunning to see here. And so that's something that we'll hope for. But be aware of that. So that is the space side of things. How does the weather cooperate or not cooperate with us? We're going to jump to that now here. Obviously, to see the northern lights, we need a clear sky. And I don't think that's going to be totally the case for tonight. We do expect to see cloud cover increase. There's some questions, how thick it will be. We're going to go partly to mostly cloudy. I think at times there will be some breaks in the night sky. And so that is something to look forward to. We'll hope that we keep things a little more clear here. We're optimistic about space being right. What happens here? I'm going to show you 2 different runs of Future Track to give you an idea of a better case scenario and a worst case scenario for us here. We're going to look at the entire state, because I know we got folks that still follow us from southern Illinois, suburbs, western Illinois, northwest Illinois, things of that. I'm seeing some of you chat on it. Notice here, Future Track, this particular run says 645. Some thicker cloud cover showing up in the northwest part of the state. That's with an approaching cold front coming our way. And that front will continue to move to the south and east. 8, 9 o'clock, southern half of the state, probably looking a bit better. Mid-northern part looking a little bit worse here. Now, I'm not saying necessarily drive south, because that front's going to keep coming on through, but you can see midnight, Illinois River, some rain coming through and some cloud cover, and we will see how much cloud cover sits in front of it there ahead of that front coming on through. 1 to 3 a.m. now, it's starting to push through central Illinois. By 5 a.m., looks like things clear out. The backside, maybe later, early tomorrow morning, get a chance, but of course, that peak timing, 1 a.m., unfortunately, that front is looking like it is settling on in here. A different run of Future Track is a little more polite with the cloud cover for us. That's 11 p.m. here. Yes, there's some cloud cover, but there might be some breaks in there too. So this might be a look out the window tonight. Oh, clearing. Let's go out and look and see what happens. And so we get some showers that come on through here. No severe weather. Probably not really any rumbles of thunder. Just some general showers with the front coming through. And let me back that up real quick. I want to get the rest of that to show up for you. As there we go, there's that front. You can see 1 a.m. now across the middle part of the state. Still clear down here by I-70. Some clearing possible there to the north and west, but there'll be a band somewhere. Of course, it looks like it has to settle over us, doesn't it? But as we get later into the night, then that band is going to continue to push off to the south and to the east there. So we've got that front coming. We've got some clouds. We'll keep an eye on it. Here's some tips for you. If you're thinking, I'm going to go out and look at them, first off, to find the best chance to spot them, I want to manage your expectations. This is really exciting, but it's not Iceland, Norway, Arctic Circle exciting. You might be disappointed. Potentially, they may not show up. as good as, let me rephrase that. As difficult or as wrong as you think we are with the local forecast sometimes, the space weather people have, they're talking about solar storms coming from the sun millions of miles and arriving on Earth. And so we've got that window of opportunity. So if you're thinking it could be those magazine style photos, that's not what you see with the naked eye. I showed you that graphic earlier. You can get those photos, but it takes cameras, the long exposure lenses, the high exposure times, things of that for that. But if you do want a chance to see with the naked eye, you got to get out of town. A dark area, rural area, as few lights as possible is the best thing to do that here. The littlest amount of light in your eyes can bother you. And so you even want to protect your eyes, like say a car coming down the road, turns its headlights on, cover your eyes to keep it, because you want your eyes to adjust. 10, 15 minutes, things will look a lot better by standing outside in complete darkness and looking up there. Of course, if you start to look at your phone, the light from your phone is going to affect things as well. And so that is certainly something to think about as we are moving forth, okay, I'm going to see it with the naked eye, but I want to use my phone. I'm going to show you some tips on the phone here in a second. Have a lot of patience. It's a broad window, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. It's a 6-hour window where we get a good chance to see that. Might have some clouds coming during that time, maybe a few showers, maybe clouds clear out, might show up there. So we'll just see what happens. There'll probably be some great photos from around the region. Whether that's in your exact area still remains to be seen, because that front perhaps is going to ruin things for us. But again, long exposure lenses, a muter, professional photographers, they got the big camera gear. They might have a great time tonight. Your phones, though, can still take a look at things here. Let me show you on the phone what it looks like. So this is my phone right here. I actually got the Apple TV connected. So, hey, how we doing? Seats, whatnot. Works out pretty well. This is what it looks like when we're standing here at the pod, if you're ever curious about that. So that's the studio view. There you go. You get a little fun view and whatnot. I'm going to show you some settings. I'm going to bring this full screen to illustrate them so you can see it a little bit better. This is for an iPhone. I don't know much about Android, but the iPhone here, as you look at things, you see how I've got this little drop-down arrow here? A couple of things to look forward to. Your exposure, you can think about increasing that. See how it brightens it up? You're allowing more light into the lens. And then in addition, something else is, not timer, where is it? Here we go. In the top left corner, you'll see where it says +2 there of my screen. That little button I click, as long as that is highlighted, watch as I set the camera down, make it really dark. See how the seconds pop up there? 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Let me see if I can get that. So it's going to be this button down here in the bottom left pops up. You can change that, and that's going to determine how long your phone shows the thing up for. So in the bottom there, it says max 29 seconds. If I took 29 seconds, it's going to have that lens open for 29 seconds. You got to hold it really still to get there. A lot of times you can get 10 seconds. But I press that. Notice it's counting down. It's going to have a long exposure lens at nighttime there and try and show me an image, collect as much light as it can in order to do that. And so it'll count all the way down. You got to have a lot of times a mount for that to be the case. And so this probably isn't going to show anything. It's counting down 10 seconds because I've got it laying on the desk here face down so I can have that. But at nighttime, you go outside, sometimes you can hold it up and you can see it pop to 10 seconds or press that button and make it work. That's a tip for you. And there it is. I just taken the photo. I had it face down in the desk and it still caught some light. A little bit of light in the edge there popped on in. And so that certainly is something to see. So again, you're looking at your phones, this button right here. A lot of times if I'm moving around, there's bright light in the studio here. I've got my exposure up. I can adjust that down. You can also make it look darker, but you want to have your exposure potentially up. And then also look for the, sometimes it'll pop up. There it is. So see how it disappears when I get less light, it pops up there. That little button will give you the chance, and you hold it still. Maybe I put it down a little bit more. See how it's increasing on max. The time there gets to 10 seconds. A lot of times you get 10 seconds pretty easy, but you hold it absolutely still. That'll get you to that 30-second time. Okay, that's some fun you can think of with your phone, things of that. Hope you had a chance to maybe learn something about your phone. I'm not familiar with Android. I'm sure there's some similar settings on there, but you can play around with it. That might be the best way for you to get a really cool-looking, vivid photo of the Northern Lights. And potentially, you might be able to see them with the naked eye, too. Of course, if you do get some photos, we'd love to see those. Be sure to send them my way, and I love to share those on social media. So it'll be something interesting to see if, in fact, we get the Northern Lights. And I know saying, oh, that cloud cover, I hope it stays away. Maybe tomorrow night, wouldn't rule it out. We'll see. Some data still coming in. We'll see how it evolves, but maybe tomorrow night might be another opportunity for us. But for sure, tonight it looks like a good opportunity way up high. The question is, closer to the surface, does that cloud cover cooperate? If you got a flight, maybe you're flying somewhere tonight from Chicago, flying to wherever for Mother's Day weekend, maybe your flight at nighttime, get a chance to do that too. Or if you're thinking about it, maybe you can drive a little north, but we have a chance here locally. And so that's something that I wanted to share with y'all. All right, that's all I have for you. And we'll sign off. If you got questions, photos, things of that, let me know. We'll try and answer them. Check my Facebook page and we will keep you updated. Take care.